I'm going to make $1 million before graduating high school, and this YouTube channel is going to document the whole process.
An 18-year-old from Long Island.
One New York high school senior
He's raking in millions of dollars and is
already making waves.
Zach
He's
Yaragari.
actually being denied admission.
$30 million.
Cal AI.
Cal-AI. It's a calorie tracker inspired by his frustration with existing nutrition apps.
At 16 years old, Zach Yaragari had already sold a website for $100,000. A few years later, he built an AI app that was already making over $1.5 million every single month. But when he applied to college, almost every Ivy League school rejected him. The teenager who had built a company making over $1.5 million every single month was told he wasn't good enough. This is the story of a teenager who turned curiosity, coding, and one frustrating gym experience into one of the fastest growing AI apps in the fitness industry. When Zach was 7 years old, nothing about him suggested he was going to become a millionaire. He was skinny, quiet, and spent most of his time playing video games. He wasn't the popular kid. He was just a kid who loved figuring out how games worked. But that curiosity would change everything in the near future. One summer, Zach's mother sent him to a coding boot camp, and like most teenagers there, he didn't learn enough to build anything impressive yet. But the boot camp sparked something magical inside of him. So after the camp ended, Zach went online and began teaching himself how to code. He watched coding tutorials and followed videos on YouTube while he coded along with the instructors as they wrote the code. He joined developer communities and he experimented hour after hour on different projects. And slowly, the pieces started coming together. By the age of 10, Zach had become confident enough in his skills to start tutoring other students on coding. He charged $30 an hour, and at first he had just one student, but after advertising in Facebook groups, he grew the business to 3 regular students. Now, for a 10-year-old, that was already a small business that was doing really well. But for Zach, his biggest opportunity was still ahead of him. When Zach entered high school, he noticed something that annoyed almost every student. The school Wi-Fi blocked gaming websites. And while most students just accepted it and moved on, Zach didn't. So Zach built a website that hosted games for students to play directly in the browser. But he did something even more clever. He designed the website so it could bypass school Wi-Fi restrictions. The website he built was called Totally Science, and students didn't need to sign up. They didn't need to download anything. They could just open the site and start playing games. Within days, a number of students had joined the website and were secretly playing games on the site even during class. Then hundreds of students joined, and then thousands of students joined. Within a month, the website was getting over 10,000 visitors. What started as a fun experiment was turning into something much bigger. But Zach realized the opportunity. He needed more traffic to be able to earn meaningfully from the website. So he began promoting it on Reddit, and growth exploded. Eventually, Totally Science attracted more than 5 million users and generated over $60,000 monthly in revenue. For a teenager, it was unbelievable success, but that success also brought boredom. By 2024, Zach was tired of managing the website, so at just 16 years old, he sold Totally Science for $100,000 to the gaming company Freeze Nova. For most teenagers, that would have been the biggest achievement of their life. But for Zach, it was just the beginning. After the sale, Zach began experimenting with new ideas. One of them was Life Counts, a social media analytics platform designed to help creators track their growth and engagement. Zach believed that this idea had huge potential, but the reality was far more disappointing. The platform struggled to gain users, and eventually, Zach just shut it down. Now, for many founders, the story will just end here. One successful startup and one failed one. But for Zach, he had seen Nikita sell an app for $30 million and he wanted to do the same. So he kept searching for the next big idea. And ironically, he would find it somewhere completely unexpected. Zach was like many high school boys. He wanted to improve his appearance so he could impress the girls. So, naturally, he started going to the gym every day. But after months of training, he wasn't seeing the results he expected, and that made him frustrated. So, someone at the gym suggested he track his calories using an app. So Zach downloaded this app, and for 3 days, he tried logging his meals. But then he quit. Weighing his food and entering every ingredient manually was slow and annoying. But luckily, around the same time, a new technology was beginning to take off: artificial intelligence. AI platforms like ChatGPT could now recognize objects in images. And suddenly, Zach had an idea. What if calorie tracking didn't require anything? What if users could simply take a photo of their food and the AI would automatically estimate the calories? That idea became Cal AI. Now, to build the app, Zach teamed up with his childhood friend Henry Langmark and two other acquaintances. They started with a small experiment. The team spent $2,000 on social media marketing to test whether people actually wanted the product, and the results were promising. So they committed to funding the app's development and marketing it for 6 months. And that was when the revenue started coming in. In the first month, the app made $28,000, and in the second month, it made $115,000. Cal AI was growing fast, but Zach was about to face a challenge he never expected. You see, Zach had been growing Cal AI during the holidays, but now the holiday had ended. And suddenly, Zach had 2 full-time responsibilities on his hands: running a fast-growing startup and being a high school student. Slowly, the startup began taking priority, and it was so tedious that in one of his tests, Zach sat in the classroom for the entire test, but he just stared at the questions. And that was not because he didn't know the answers, but he felt too exhausted to answer even a single one. Still, he didn't want to drop out of high school, so he tried hard to balance the best of both worlds. But the stress was building. Eventually, Zach applied to 18 colleges, and despite having a 4.0 GPA and scoring 34 on his ACT, nearly every Ivy League school rejected him. Only 3 colleges accepted him. Then he made another mistake. Hoping for some feedback, Zach posted his college essay on X, stating how all these universities had rejected him and how he thinks he should have actually gotten an admission in more of these schools. But the internet responded brutally. Users mocked the essay and accused him of sounding entitled. For a young founder who was already in the public, the negative spotlight was a harsh lesson. But while the internet debated his college essay, his company kept growing. By this point, Cal AI was generating over $3 million every single month. Zach began appearing on major TV stations and YouTube channels. He was even featured on CNBC Make It. But success brought new controversy. Some users claimed that the AI calorie estimates weren't always accurate. Critics questioned whether the app lived up to the hype. And when Zach and his friends launched a community called the App Mafia to teach others how to build apps, some people accused them of trying to cash in on their popularity. Zach was learning a harsh lesson that he couldn't learn in school. The internet can build you up quickly, but it can also tear you down just as fast. Still, the momentum behind Cal AI continued, and eventually, the biggest moment arrived. On the 2nd of March 2026, MyFitnessPal announced the acquisition of Cal AI. The teenager who once built a gaming website just to bypass his school's network had now built one of the fastest growing AI apps in the fitness industry and sold it. And the kid, who was rejected by nearly every Ivy League school, had already built something many graduates spent their entire careers chasing: a company worth millions of dollars.
Speak according to that light. Speak global when you are still crossing a gutter. Do you get what I'm saying here? You get overthrown by what you see. Job chapter 34 and verse 25. It says, therefore he knoweth their works, and he overturneth them in the night, so that they are destroyed. Now it looks like it's God that overturned them and overthrew them in the night, but that's not what happened. It's their words that overthrew them. Numbers 14 and verse 28. Say unto them, as truly as I live, saith the Lord, as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do unto you. Your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness. It is what they said that was happening. God said, what I am doing is what you are saying.